What's up, everyone? James Lynch here and Ben for Odds Checker US previewing Saturday's UFC Vegas 60 event, which is going to go down at the Apex in Las Vegas. And let's get right into the card at this very moment. We're going to start in the main card. In the middleweight division, we've got Anthony Hernandez taking on Marc-Andre Barrio. And right now, Hernandez is a slight favorite at minus 170. The comeback on Power Bar plus 145. Who are you going with here, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, Barrio should have the edge on the feet. I think he can strike at a higher pace and he can get it done on the feet, but Hernandez kind of has that grappling advantage. So I expect this to be kind of a clash of styles. I don't know. I mean, Hernandez, rightfully a favorite in this spot, but I would like to see it a little bit closer to pick him. So I might actually take Barrio here as the underdog, just because I think if he can keep this standing, he has a decent shot on the feet just with his output. So I'll take him as a dog.
Yeah, I think it is a dog or pass situation. I am going on the Hernandez side, though. I just think a little bit more well-rounded overall. We have seen Barrio get finished, a couple fights ago. We'll see what happens. I agree with you, though. I think if it does stay standing, you give the edge to Barrio. It's just that ground game is so good for Hernandez. Can he go in there? Can he implement that? Can he, take this into his world? I think it's entirely possible here. This is personally one I'm going to stay away from, but I do think if you are betting, it is a dog or pass situation. Okay, next fight we're going to look at Tanner Boser, Rodrigo NACimento, and right now the odds makers have Tanner Boser as the moderate favorite here at minus 195. The comeback on NACimento plus 160. Who are you going with here?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Boser by knockout here. I think if he wins, that is the method he will win. That's how his last three fights have gone win-wise. And he is the favorite in this spot. So I think if he wins as the favorite, it's going to be a knockout. You look at his three losses, Cyril Gane, Andre Arlovski, and Ilir Latifi. I mean, those are impressive losses, especially the Cyril Gane loss. But, I mean, you look at how he wins and he's winning by knockout. So I'm just going to have to take him there to knock down a little bit of juice. But I like him in this spot. If he can, it's kind of like the last fight. If he keeps it standing, he should land the knockout. Because I think obviously NACimento has the edge on the ground, but can he get it there? That's the question. And I don't know. I mean, Boser's looked pretty impressive. And he looked good in his last fight with that knockout. So I think he makes it back-to-back knockouts here.
Canadian bias aside, I really like Boser here. The big thing that stands out is the experience here. You look at 29 fights compared to just 9. He's fought way better opposition. The fights he has lost, like you referenced there, they're decision losses. He's not getting finished. Yeah. He's a very tough guy to put away. I don't see NACimento having much success here. The only concern here for me is the layoff. Boser hasn't fought in a while, but I don't think it matters. I think minus 195, that's a good parlay piece, or, like you said, maybe take the knockout prop. I do worry a bit this could go the distance because Tanner has had a couple fights that have gone there, those fights that he lost. So we'll see. But yeah, either way, I think Boser wins this. And I think minus 195 is a decent price that you're getting him at. Okay, next fight we're going to look at is in the middleweight division. We've got Allen Mendovsky taking on Joseph Pfeiffer, who's making his UFC debut. And right now the odds makers have Pfeiffer as a huge favorite at minus 420. The comeback on Mendovsky plus 325. Is this pretty obvious? Who are you picking here?
I think it is pretty obvious, and this feels like a little bit of a gimme for Pfeiffer here. It seems like there's a little bit of something going on here. I mean, obviously they're trying to build up their contender series fighters, and that is definitely what I see going on here. I mean, like, granted, yeah, you don't want to just throw him into the ringer right off the bat because it's obviously his UFC debut. But I mean, they're giving him a guy who is, probably about to be cut from the UFC, 0-3 in his 3 fights in the UFC. And I saw this stat. I don't know if it's I didn't look into it. I saw it right before I came on. He's only landed 9 strikes in those 3 fights. So, I mean, yeah, it kind of seems like a gimme. The one guy who knocked him out, actually, his knockout loss, John Phillips. Phillips was 0-3 in the UFC, got his first win against Allen, and then he went 0-2 again after that, and he got cut.
Yeah,
so, I mean, that's kind of what you're looking at here. And Pfeiffer obviously has the hands to finish this fight by knockout. If he's getting knocked out by, John Phillips and that kind of thing, I see this one going the same way. So, yeah, I think this one's a gimme from the UFC, to be honest.
I'm always really leery of laying this much juice, especially like a minus 420 here for Joseph Pfeiffer, and it's his debut. I mean, I forget what the stats are, but if you look at a lot of the contender series fighters, some of them don't win their debut, so you got to be careful about that. But you just mentioned it there. This is a tailor-made matchup for Pfeiffer. Dana White's been pretty vocal about how much he loves Joseph Pfeiffer. He had 2 stints on contender series, so he's getting this shot here, which is great. I would look at the knockout prop. I think that's the way to go here, inside the distance. I mean, I doubt it's a submission, but maybe you look at either the knockout prop or you look at the round props and sort of figure it out there. But I'm not going to lean minus 420, but I will look at that knockout prop in this fight, because this guy, I mean, you look at Pfeiffer in general. This is a guy that does not like getting paid by the hour. Like I said, a lot of knockout wins here, back-to-back knockout wins. So this guy's a knockout machine, and his opponent has been knocked out. Well, he was knocked out. He was rear naked choke his last fight, but knocked out in 14 seconds prior to that. So yeah, I'm going Pfeiffer by knockout. I think that's the way to go.
Yep.
Okay, next fight we're going to look at here. Really close one, Andre Fili and Bill Algeo. And right now the odds makers have Fili as a slight favorite at minus 130. The comeback on Bill Algeo. Just before I get your pick on this, I've seen a lot of people take Bill Algeo, and I get it. I mean, I think there's a school of thought that maybe Fili's done, but I don't know. I want to get your thoughts first, and I'll kind of explain how I think this fight's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Fili's I've seen the same thing, and it's like, I mean, he's had some tough opponents. He had that tough no contest, and I think coming off that, it's always hard to get back in there. So I kind of understand the knockout loss after that. But I mean, Andre Fili, he's not a bad fighter. I mean, honestly, I'm a fan of him. I like him a lot. He trains at Alpha Male. Like, he's a good fighter who I think is just in a little bit of a rut, especially after that loss to Bryce Mitchell. Maybe that, kind of swung his mental space a little bit, and he can come back. But I mean, if it really was just he's done, I don't think he'd be a favorite in this spot. So I think, kind of the odds are suggesting that he's not done yet. Bill Algeo, obviously a really tough fighter and a really tough fighter to control on the ground. And he looked really good against Herbert Burns, Gilbert Burns' brother. And that was a pretty impressive win. But I don't know if Fili can make this kind of like a grappling affair and make it his fight. I like his odds. But to be honest, I'm kind of torn on this one, because how will Fili show up? I mean, are we going to see, the best version of Andre? I don't know. So this one's tough for me, but I would lean his way, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you're just looking down the resume of who Andre Fili's fought. It's not even close. He's fought way better opposition overall. Yeah, like I said, definitely. The concern is he lost in 41 seconds in his last fight. Some people feeling like maybe this is the beginning of the end, but you got to remember, he's only 32. It's not like he's a 40-year-old and we're starting to see that rapid decline here. I don't think that's the case here. If you look at it for the most part, Andre Fili's fights tend to go the distance. And Bill Algeo, same thing. He's a guy that, I mean, that Herbert Burns fight, let's call it like it is. Herbert Burns got injured in that fight and he wasn't able to continue. So that was, you can see it there, exhaustion from damage, but he was injured early on. He does have a win over Barrio, who just beat Fili. So maybe that's why people are seeing this fight a little bit closer here, but you see decision. This is not a guy who finishes his opponents that often. It's typically him going the distance. The play here is very simple. It's the fight goes the distance. Just in case you get a bad robbery, we had a really close fight on 279 last week, which I thought could have gone either way. With Daniel Rodriguez and Li Jingliang. Don't fall victim to that here. I think the play is either the fight goes to decision, or I would take Andre Fili by decision, but I don't think we'll see a finish here. It's 3 rounds. These two guys are going to, go at it. But I think if I have to pick, I'll go Fili, but I would go Fili by decision, or fight goes the distance. I don't think we'll see a finish here. So I'm going on that. Okay. Co-main event. What a banger this is. Chidi and Njokuani, Gregory Rodriguez. And right now the odds makers have this near almost an even fight. Actually, I've seen the line flip a bit. So Rodriguez now the favorite, and Njokuani the underdog, minus 105. Who you liking here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to see if Njokuani takes it, can keep it on the feet. Because obviously Rodriguez, he's going to be looking maybe for that take. I mean, he's been landing these knockouts. I would think of him as more as like a grappler predominantly, but I mean, he's been landing these impressive TKO wins. So I don't know. I mean, Rodriguez has been going up against some hard-hitting opponents. I mean, Julian Marquez, pretty hard hitter. Petrosian, obviously a pretty hard hitter. Todorovic, a hard hitter, and he hasn't been getting knocked out in any of these fights. So his chin's obviously held up well, which will be the main factor here, obviously, against a hard hitter like Chidi. So I mean, if that chin holds up and he can get his grappling going, I think he can make his way to a pretty little decision win. But I mean, Chidi's a hard hitter. He's live for a knockout even in the 3rd round, as we've seen. So I mean, he's always going to be bringing the heat, but that chin is tested. I'm going to actually take the shot on Rodriguez here, because his chin is proven to hold up, at least thus far, against really hard hitters. I think he can do it again. And after he does that, he can work in some grappling in this fight. So I like him probably by decision here, if I had to take a stab.
All right, I'm actually going the other way on this one. I like Chidi Njokuani. I think he hits a little bit harder. I think he's really in his groove right now. We've just seen him really sort of take over these last couple of fights. You saw that performance against Todorovic, first round finish there. Marc-Andre Barrio knocking him out in 16 seconds, very impressive. This is a guy that has absolute dynamite in his hands and a ton of experience. Let's not forget he fought in Bellator, fought a ton of opponents over there. This is a guy that is well seasoned and I think coming into his own right now. Now Rodriguez is amazing as well too. Just the one split decision loss fight that probably should have gone his way. But we can't forget that Jordan Williams, of all people, knocked him out on Contender Series, which was a bit weird considering Jordan Williams got cut recently. So it's one of those weird things. I honestly think the play here is the fight doesn't go the distance. I'm actually going the other way on this one because these guys both have knockout power. I think someone's getting finished here. I would go the fight doesn't go the distance. I don't think there's an advantage on either side, to be honest. I know Rodriguez has the ground game. That's maybe a plus there, but I could argue that, Njokuani's fought better opposition. So I would go the fight doesn't go the distance. But if I have to pick, I'm going Chidi and Njokuani. If he gets the plus money, I'm going to throw some on him for sure. Minus 105 is getting there, but we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, main event, Corey Sandhagen, Song Yadong. Right now, the odds makers have Corey Sandhagen at minus 210. So this line is climbing. I noticed earlier this week it was only minus 200. The comeback on Song Yadong, plus 175. Who are you liking here?
I'm honestly pretty torn on this one. I feel like the odds should be closer. I don't know if I'll actually make a play on this one by the end of the week because I don't really have a read on whether it's going to go under or over because, Sandhagen, sometimes comes out, he lands those big flash finishes. Sometimes he just is a busy fighter who takes it 5 rounds. It's kind of, he's a hard fighter to read as far as whether he's going to finish or take it to a decision. So under, over, I'm torn. Sides, I'm torn just because the odds. I feel like Sandhagen's going to win this fight, but I don't feel like you should be laying minus 200 on him. Obviously, he has the 5-round experience. That's going to be big in this fight. That 5-round experience. He's been in many main events. But I mean, Yadong, he's a very hard hitter. He could end this fight pretty much at any time. For as light of a fighter he has some amazing power in his hands. So this one to me is really torn because at minus 200, Sandhagen, I would say, is the better bet. Maybe by decision to knock that juice down, but then Yadong has that power to end it at any time. So I don't know if I really have a play on this one, to be honest with you. It's a hard read for me.
I have a much clearer read on this one. I think this is way too much of a step up here for Song Yadong. Corey Sandhagen, we're just 2 fights removed from him nearly beating TJ Dillashaw. A couple fights ago, and Dillashaw is right now fighting for the title against Aljamain Sterling. He went the distance with Piotr Jan. I think Piotr clearly won that fight, but still the fact that Sandhagen even hung in there for that long, I think speaks volumes. Song Yadong is coming off a knockout win over Marlon Moraes, who just retired recently. The fight before that, he knocked out Julio Arce. Like, there's just such a big jump in competition. This almost reminds me a little bit of when Yair Rodriguez fought Frankie Edgar a couple of years ago, and it wasn't even close. I don't think it's going to be that bad, but I just think Sandhagen has so many advantages here. He's got the height and reach advantage. He's fought better opposition. And here's the key thing, because you mentioned the knockout power of Song. Corey Sandhagen's never been knocked out, and you think of who he's been in there with, guys like Jan and Dillashaw who have knockout power. I don't think Song is bringing anything to the table that Corey Sandhagen hasn't seen. Now, I will agree, minus 210 maybe a little bit high, but this is one of those rare cases where I think you could parlay him in some other pieces. I think minus 210. I just don't see how Song wins this fight because I don't see him knocking out Sandhagen. He doesn't have an advantage on the ground, and he's not the bigger fighter. The only advantage he has is that he's younger, and maybe it's one of those cases where this is the fight where he breaks through and looks really good, and we all underestimated him. That can happen. We've seen that before, but yeah. I think from everything we've seen here, Corey Sandhagen's a safe bet here. I when this fight was announced, I was kind of like, okay, I get it. But I also thought, man, that's a step up for Song Yadong, going from a guy who just retired to a guy that just, fought for the title in his last fight, right? So it's one of those tough things. But I like Corey Sandhagen all day in this fight. I think he gets it done. The only thing I am a little bit curious is, does this goes the distance? I probably will be taking the Sandhagen by decision prop, but it is 5 rounds. That's another thing. Song Yadong never gone 5 rounds before. So that's another reason to like Sandhagen here. So I think I will just play Sandhagen by decision, but I could also see him getting maybe a later finish against Song Yadong as well, depending on how his cardio goes. But yeah, Corey Sandhagen all day for me. So yeah,
I mean, Sandhagen is plus money to win by decision, plus 120, plus
there you go, getting some even better value there.
Yeah, and it is first 5 fights for Yadong, but I mean, he's never been knocked out in the UFC, and I think 10 fights in the UFC, and he's never been knocked out. So pretty good angle there to knock off that juice. So
there you go. All right, everyone, enjoy the card this weekend. UFC Vegas 60. I believe we're off next week, and then they're back October 1st for the fight night card there. For myself, for Ben, I hope you guys cash those bets. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys soon.